Okay, so did they actually say they want to start deporting US citizens? Yeah, they did. Not all US citizens, of course, just the ones they don't like, the ones they think are a threat, the ones who disagree with them politically, the ones with dual citizenship, the ones who protest, the ones who speak up.
Well, I told y'all this was going to happen, but the White House recently announced that they are in fact going to deport U.S. citizens to a prison in El Salvador.
My mom just got deported. My mom just got deported.
We have some breaking news. Trump just announced a terrifying plan to deport natural-born U.S. citizens to El Salvador. On Sunday, a reporter questioned Trump about the president of El Salvador's offer to house American prisoners, to which Trump replied that he, quote, loves the idea of deporting Americans to El Salvador.
So the Trump administration just deported 2 men to South Sudan. The problem? They're not from South Sudan. One is
So, we need to talk. You know how everyone keeps saying, this isn't the America I grew up in? Yeah, it's starting to feel like that on steroids. We're talking censorship, government crackdowns, people being deported or detained just for speaking up, and yes, even US citizens. What was once the so-called land of the free is now looking more and more like a surveillance state where your opinions can land you in jail. Is America turning into the next North Korea? That might sound dramatic, but stick with me because the facts are scary. Today, we're diving into the state of American civil liberties, the erosion of freedom of speech, ICE deporting actual U.S. citizens, and a political system that's starting to look more authoritarian than democratic. Buckle up.
We have some breaking news. Trump just announced a terrifying plan to deport natural-born U.S. citizens to El Salvador. On Sunday, a reporter questioned Trump about the president of El Salvador's offer to house American prisoners, to which Trump replied that he, quote, loves the idea of deporting Americans to El Salvador. Following his comments, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed that Trump is in fact looking into legal avenues to deport U.S. citizens. Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor issued a response saying, quote, not only non-citizens, but also United States citizens could be taken off the streets, forced onto planes, and confined to foreign prisons with no opportunity for redress. It shouldn't matter whether you're on the left or the right. This should send chills down the spine of every single American. Allowing U.S. citizens to be deported to a foreign country would mark the total collapse of our constitutional protections. Protests could be criminalized, political enemies could be arrested, and marginalized communities would almost certainly be targeted.
So now that the House of Representatives has effectively passed a bill that now will go to the Senate that will legally allow the administration to deport U.S. citizens, I have some follow-up points of negotiation that I would like to give to you. Number 1, do I get to pick the destination? If you give me a list of like 5 to 10 countries, I will elect my top 3 and you get back to me on what you can do with that. Number 2, you're going to cancel my student loans, right? Because I can't use my education obtained here in the next country. I will have to go back to school. So you should probably go ahead and cancel that, as well as credit me back all the money that I have busted my ass to pay to you to pay those student loans off. Number 3, can I volunteer as tribute? Do we have to commit a crime to be deported? Is there a list to sign up? I think that would be a great idea if you're trying to like offload some people. I think many would volunteer for this. Number 4, credit scores, debt. You're going to cancel that, right? Because if I'm no longer a citizen, I don't think I should have to adhere to credit scores or pay back any debt that I acquired as a citizen here. That should be like null and void. I think that's a great idea. Number 5, are you paying for my move? I think there should be like some incentive, reimbursement, relocation assistance. I think you should pay for it. As long as I didn't commit a crime to get deported, if I volunteered, I think it should be on your dime. Because I've been paying my taxes for years now, and I think that's the least that you can do is go ahead and pay for my move to the next country. You get back to me, look through my terms. If you need a PDF, I can send that to you. Happy to negotiate further.
In America, freedom of speech used to be sacred. It was the thing that made the U.S. stand out from authoritarian regimes. But now, it's starting to feel like a myth. People are being silenced on social media platforms, journalists are being surveilled or raided, and whistleblowers are treated like enemies of the state. Let's talk about the Department of Homeland Security's Disinformation Governance Board, which was literally a government attempt to control what's considered true or false online. The board got paused after public backlash, but the intent was crystal clear. The government wants to filter and suppress dissenting opinions. TikTok users, YouTubers, and even regular Twitter users have reported being shadow banned or flagged just for criticizing the administration, whether Democrat or Republican. If you speak out against the system, you're labeled a threat.
Well, I told y'all this was going to happen, but the White House recently announced that they are in fact going to deport U.S. citizens to a prison in El Salvador. And they are assuring us that it is just the very, very violent, worst criminals ever. But if it's anything like what we've seen them do with migrants, is there going to be due process? Are we going to even know if people are picked up? Are they going to be able to contact lawyers and their family? Because I know they are this close to considering political dissenters criminals. And then that prison will be used for dissenters and anybody else that they find to be a threat to the administration. Those will now be the dangerous criminals. Because those are the people they want to make sure disappear. The people that know too much. The people that say too much. And that is why the leading researcher on fascism has already left the country. It's official. U.S. citizens will be sold to El Salvador. Will be human trafficked to El Salvador.
Okay, so did they actually say they want to start deporting U.S. citizens? Yeah, they did. Not all U.S. citizens, of course. Just the ones they don't like. The ones they think are a threat. The ones who disagree with them politically. The ones with dual citizenship. The ones who protest. The ones who speak up. Here's the thing. They know they can't legally deport natural-born U.S. citizens. That's not allowed. But what they can do, and what they're already talking about, is stripping people of their citizenship first and then deporting them. And honestly, that should scare everybody, because once you open that door, once you start saying, well, this person isn't a real American, you can stretch that logic to include whoever you want. It starts with illegals, then it moves to immigrants with green cards, then naturalized citizens, then dual citizens, and then suddenly you're saying, well, if you don't agree with us, maybe you shouldn't be here either. It's not a slippery slope, it's the whole plan. And I get it. Some people hear this and go, oh, that'll never happen here. But if you look at what's already being said out loud on national TV, at campaign rallies by people who are actually in power or trying to be, you realize they're not joking. They're testing the waters. So yeah, when someone says they want to start deporting citizens, believe them the first time.
My mom just got deported. My mom just got deported. It's so not fair. It's so not fair. She's literally not a criminal. Like, she's literally just paid her taxes. She's literally just... We're not safe. No one's safe. Please. Hug your loved ones, please.
This isn't conspiracy theory stuff, besties. ICE has actually detained and deported American citizens. According to multiple investigations, including one from the ACLU, hundreds of U.S. citizens have been mistakenly, or even knowingly, detained by ICE. Some were held for months. Some were deported before authorities realized they were legal citizens. In 2019, a teenager named Francisco Galicia, a U.S. citizen, was held by ICE for nearly a month, despite having a valid Texas ID. He lost nearly 30 pounds and was denied basic hygiene during his detention. Republicans in Congress even voted against an amendment that would have banned ICE from using its funds to detain or deport American citizens. Let that sink in. They could have voted to protect citizens, but chose not to.
Yesterday in Congress, Representative Jayapal introduced a bill against deporting American citizens. You'd think this would be a no-brainer, right? You'd think that every single member of the House of Representatives would immediately vote in favor of this amendment, and you'd be wrong, because every single Republican voted against the amendment and therefore killed it. I'm going to use myself as, an example about why this is problematic. My mother was not an American citizen. I was born here, so I have birthright citizenship. But say Trump gets sick and tired of me making videos about how terrible he is, and he says, you know what? Her citizen's sketch anyways, so we're going to deport her. Where are they going to deport me to? Deportation means sending a person back to their country of origin. I don't have dual citizenship with Denmark. The United States is my country of origin. This is my home country. So if they're going to deport me, where are they going to deport me to? There's nowhere for me to go because this is where I'm from. What they can do is send me to a death camp in El Salvador, which is exactly what they are trying to lay the groundwork to do. They've already started deporting American citizens. It's just a matter of time before they do this. And this perfectly illustrates why every single Republican is complicit with what the Trump regime is doing and why we have to vote them all out of office.
Now, do you understand that it was never about your legal status? It was just about the fact that you were not white. Trump told you that he was going to do this, and you let him use you. Cubans for Trump, Latinos for Trump, dogs for slaughterhouses, and y'all voted for him. And it's just because you had too much disdain for a black woman. You could not stand to see a black woman make it into the position of power that y'all wanted, so you voted for the man who wanted to send you back to your war-torn countries. Because most of these visas, the over 500,000 visas that he's revoking, are visas that Biden gave to people who were fleeing war-torn countries. Biden did so much for the country, provided so much solitude, gave the people a fighting chance, alley-ooped it up to Harris, and you guys said, no, she's black, fuck that shit. Now you have a month to self-deport. Not a month to contest, not a month to get your legal status in order. He is giving 500,000 people a month to self-deport or face deportation through ICE. And you know what ICE is now? They take you to Guantanamo Bay. They're going to make you slave labor. And you know who doesn't have rights in America? Non-citizens. I remember vividly arguing with people, letting them know that it did not matter if you got here legally. It does not matter how you are as an immigrant, if you're a model immigrant. If you are not a white American, they were not going to protect you. And we told you all. What? I just saw a video of Cubans on the boat singing Cubans are going to vote for Trump. You see the first list of people on this? Cubans. And they were one of the loudest supporters of Trump. It makes no sense. He said he was going to do this. I need to know, why did y'all vote for him when y'all knew he was going to do this?
Need more evidence the U.S. is about to deport U.S. citizens? Here it is. I'm a lawyer in real life. I don't play one on television. And something happened this week that you need to see and hear in order to believe it.
My amendment is simple, and I hope that it has bipartisan support. It simply states that none of the funds in this bill may be used by Immigration and Customs Enforcement to detain or deport U.S. citizens. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, I hope we can all agree that U.S. citizens should never be detained by ICE or any agency conducting civil immigration enforcement. They certainly should not be deported. This should not be a partisan issue. It's about protecting the most basic constitutional rights of U.S. citizens.
Not one Republican voted yes to this amendment.
Clerk will report.
Mr. Chairman, there are 11 ayes and 12 noes.
Not one Republican thought it was important enough to protect U.S. citizens and not use federal funds to deport their own constituents. So ask yourself, why vote against this if you're not intending to use it? Why not protect American citizens if it's not your plan to deport American citizens? You have to watch what they vote for, and most importantly, you have to watch what they refuse to protect. They have voted not to protect American citizens. We're no longer in the realm of science fiction or conspiracies. These things are actually happening. We know they have already deported children who are U.S. citizens. Who's next?
This part is heartbreaking. We're not just talking about adults. Kids are getting caught in the system too. There are cases of children who were born in the U.S. legal citizens, being deported with their undocumented parents or even separately. ICE has detained minors in facilities that human rights organizations have described as inhumane. And the trauma? Permanent. Family separation has left deep psychological scars on thousands of children, many of whom don't even understand why they were taken. If this were happening in another country, America would call it a human rights violation. But it's happening here, and it's largely normalized.
So now they trying to get rid of us. And don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about, because I'm sure you do. But if you don't, look at this.
So the president has discussed this idea quite a few times publicly.
Yes.
He's also discussed it privately. You're referring to the president's idea for American citizens to potentially be deported. These would be heinous, violent criminals who have broken our nation's laws repeatedly. And these are violent repeat offenders in American streets. The president has said if it's legal, right? If there is a legal pathway to do that, he's not sure. We are not sure if there is. It's an idea that he has simply floated and has discussed very publicly as in the effort of
So I say again, aren't America's most dangerous criminals already locked up? So basically get rid of the ones that they don't like, the ones they consider a threat, the ones that disagree with them politically, the ones who protest, the ones who speak up. Or maybe they just want to strip people of their citizenship and then deport them. I guess you pretty much have to ask yourself is when is America going to wake up and realize that these politicians aren't joking? First it was deporting illegals and immigrants. Now they want to deport U.S. citizens. But hey, as I always say, this is who y'all voted for.
This is, oh my God, I can't. Every single House Republican voted against an amendment that would have banned ICE from using federal funds to detain or deport U.S. citizens. It sounds crazy, but this really did happen. This wasn't about immigration loopholes or border security. This was about protecting American citizens from being wrongfully targeted by their own government. And they said no. They said no. ICE has already detained U.S. citizens by mistake. People have lost weeks, even months of their lives because of database errors and misidentifications. So this amendment would have added a basic safeguard, but instead lawmakers rejected it. Now, if your citizenship doesn't guarantee your freedom, then what does?
So the Trump administration just deported 2 men to South Sudan. The problem? They're not from South Sudan. One is from Myanmar, the other is from Vietnam. And before you bigots get too excited, this was not a send them home situation. More of a dump them in a war zone and hope nobody notices situation. These men were deported in direct violation of a federal judge's orders, an order that required meaningful notice and a chance to raise torture concerns before being sent to a third country. Reminder, South Sudan has been in a brutal civil war since 2013. 2/3 of the population relies on humanitarian aid. The US literally says, do not travel. Under US and international law, we cannot deport anyone to a country wherein they face a substantial risk of torture. And that is not a suggestion, by the way, that is a binding obligation. So when the Trump administration ignores that law and a judge's order, they're not just breaking protocol, they're violating the Constitution and impeding on basic human rights. And let's be clear, this was not about national security, it was not about justice, this was about political theater at the expense of human lives. Plain and simple, deporting Vietnamese and Burmese asylum seekers to South Sudan is unlawful and dangerous. Upholding due process is essential regardless of how tough on immigration you may be.
We've reached the point where criticizing the government makes you a suspect. Activists and protesters have been put on watch lists for simply attending peaceful protests. Journalists like James Risen, who reported on CIA misconduct, were surveilled. Edward Snowden, exiled. Julian Assange, facing extradition for publishing leaked documents. You'd expect this from countries like North Korea or China, right? But this is happening in America. Even average citizens are being targeted. People who attended protests have had their phones tracked, social media combed through, and in some cases, jobs lost. The message is clear: toe the line or suffer the consequences.
All right, MAGA, now is your time to speak up, because we now have a citizen of the United States who was born in Georgia is going to be deported from Florida. A 21-year-old kid where they brought his birth certificate to court. The judge authenticated it and then said, I'm sorry, I don't have a jurisdiction to let you go. ICE is on their way. Now's your time to say something. That kid was a passenger in a car on his way to a job. And they arrested him under suspicion of entering the United States illegally. And even when they had proof, it doesn't matter. So now's the time. When y'all said, oh, this won't happen, they're going to send this kid out. They're going to send this kid to El Salvador for doing what? He is a citizen. What you would do in this moment is what you would have done in Germany in 1930. You have to call out your side because blue can't do it. It's you. And this is all on you. And if you say nothing, you are complicit in this evil.
They are violating 18 U.S. Code 4042 if they take United States citizens and put them in an El Salvador prison. That's the first thing that they're violating. Secondly would be the 8th Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment, not to mention the 14th Amendment as well. They don't care. Okay? They don't care. They are telling us that they are going to take what they consider violent offenders, giving a basic overview of what a violent offender is, and then saying they're going to put them in an El Salvador prison that has human rights violations. They are trying to say that it is a placement issue and not a prosecution issue, yet people who commit violent offenses get let off scot-free constantly because they have yet to define what truly is a violent offense, and that means they can make it up as they go. Call your representatives. Resistance is mandatory.
Here's the kicker. The U.S. government preaches freedom and democracy abroad while suppressing it at home. They claim to fight for liberty in other countries. But back home, they're deporting citizens, jailing protesters, and restricting speech. It's becoming clear that the American system isn't about protecting freedoms. It's about controlling narratives. Why is it so hard to afford housing, healthcare, or education, but so easy for the government to track your phone or raid your home? Why is dissent punished instead of heard? Why do lawmakers refuse to pass protections for citizens wrongly detained or deported? These are the questions we need to be asking. So, besties, let's be real. America is standing at a crossroads. It can either be the democracy it claims to be, or continue spiraling into authoritarianism. The censorship, the detentions, the fear of speaking out, it's all getting too familiar. We're watching a system that was once praised for its freedom start to look more like the regimes it used to condemn. And the scariest part? Most people don't even realize it's happening until it's too late. Adios, besties. Stay informed, stay loud, and stay free.